Hello and welcome back to Culinary Haven. Everybody loves samosas. Crispy pastry wrapped around spicy and flavorsome filling. What's not to love? And today I'm going to show you how I make them. I'm not saying it's authentic, I'm saying it's delicious. Let's begin. To make samosas we will need, for the dough, 250 grams of plain flour, half a teaspoon of salt, 120 ml of warm water and 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. Canola oil, sunflower oil, groundnut oil, any vegetable oil. And for the filling we'll need potatoes, about 400 grams roughly, 1 large onion, 1 carrot, 1 clove of garlic and 100 grams of frozen peas and a whole bunch of spices, which we'll come to later, and 250 ml of vegetable stock. And we'll start with preparing the filling because we need to cook it and we need to cool it. So we've peeled the potatoes and we're going to boil them and we're going to fry the rest of the vegetables. We'll start with the onion, which we're just going to finely chop. We're going to cook them in a large pan with about 2 tablespoons of oil. I'm using groundnut oil. We'll preheat that first and then add the onions. So we've preheated 2 tablespoons of oil and now we add the onions. We hear them sizzling and now we're going to turn it down and cook the onions for about 5 minutes or so before we add the rest. The onion is cooking there and now we're going to chop the carrot and very finely chop the garlic. We're going to cook the vegetables slowly that they not only get a nice golden brown color but also get really well cooked and soft, because filling must be soft. You don't ever want to get a crunchy bit of anything in the filling of your pie. And we're going to chop the carrot into very small cubes. So we cut it lengthwise and then into strips and then into tiny cubes. That's it. And the same with garlic, just mince it as small as you can. And now we're going to prepare the stock. I'm using a stock pod. You can also use a cube vegetable stock. Normally you get 500 ml out of a cube or a pod of stock, but we're only making half of that, 250 ml, but we're using the whole pod because we want a concentrated stock. Hot water. Just stir it and let it sit. We're going to use it, adding it gradually to the vegetables so that once they're fried and nicely colored, we're going to gradually add the stock to cook them so that they get really nice and soft. That's it, and set this aside. The onion's been cooking for a while now. We're going to add the rest. The carrots and the garlic and all the spices. The onions been cooking nicely, got the golden color, and let's add carrots and the garlic. And now we'll add the spices. 1 teaspoon of curry powder, half a teaspoon of turmeric for the color, half a teaspoon of ground mustard, half a teaspoon of white pepper, half a teaspoon of ground coriander, and half a teaspoon of ground cumin, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground cardamom. Stir it all in and let it cook for a couple of minutes before we add the stock. Let's see, cooking nicely. I just want to say regarding the seasoning, the measurements I gave you is just obviously a guideline. You might like it more or less spicier. Maybe you want to add some salt. I'm not adding any salt to the vegetables because there will be salt in the potatoes, and also the stock is very salty because it's concentrated. But just season to your taste. I gave you the list of the spices and the amounts. You will decide yourself. And now I'm going to add a little bit of stock. Stir it and let it cook for a few minutes until the stock is gone, and then we'll add more. We will use up the whole amount, but gradually. The stock is all gone now, and we're adding a little bit more. So just gradually add the stock and cook until the carrots specifically and all the vegetables are soft. The stock is gone again. The vegetables are getting soft. By the time the vegetables here in the pan are ready, the potatoes will be ready too, and then we'll combine them together. Just make sure that you cook it on a very low heat, that you don't run out of the liquid before they're ready. There you go, all gone. It's been about 20 minutes since we started cooking the vegetables, and now we're adding the last remaining stock and the peas. 100 grams of frozen peas. Stir them in. Peas hardly need any time cooking, so we'll just probably 5 minutes and it's all ready. We'll just increase the heat and make sure that the peas are defrosted, and then turn it down again and cook for about 5 minutes or so, or until our potatoes are ready. The vegetables are ready completely, and potatoes are ready as well, and now we're going to add them to our pan. I'm going to use a potato ricer, so I'm just going to add them directly onto the pan. If you don't have that, just mash the potatoes and add them to your vegetables. And 4, so it's 2 potatoes here. And now stir it all in until everything is well combined. So much flavor, color, texture, everything there. So as you can see, there was a perfect amount of fat and liquid to make a nice thick filling without it to be too dry or too soft, too runny. And now we're going to turn it off and let it cool completely. We'll transfer the filling into a bowl. It's very hot just now, and like with making any pie, the filling must be cold. That's it, and we'll just set it aside and let it cool completely. And now we'll make the dough. 250 grams of plain flour. I like to sift the flour, it always helps. Half a teaspoon of salt. Sift it into a bowl. and 120 ml of warm water and 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. I'm using groundnut oil. And 2. Not hot, not cold, warm. Now we're going to pour the water and mix it until the dough comes together, and then we'll knead it on the worktop. Just use a spatula or a spoon. It's very tempting when you look and you see a very dry, shaggy dough and you think, oh, I definitely need more water. You don't. Just switch to your hand and push it together. Actually, I'm going to do it on the worktop. Let it all out. Squeeze it and push it all together, and it will give you a perfect dough. The trick is to make the dough that is not too soft but not too dry either. It has to be stiff but elastic dough, and that's what we're getting here. It was what, 30 seconds ago, a mess in the bowl. It's not a ready dough yet, but we're halfway there. You can of course buy samosas in a pack of 4 at any supermarket, but they will not taste as good, not to mention the price. For the price of those, you will get 24 samosas that you will just dream about up until the next time you make them. Alright, at this point, which took us, what, about a minute and a half, we have a very rough, sort of flaky, grainy dough, which we'll just leave to sit back in the bowl for 5 minutes, just to let it rest, nothing else. Cover it. Just take a piece of cling film and leave it for 5 minutes. Time is up, 5 minutes, and the dough is ready to be kneaded again. So, same thing, just same motion, push, and just roll it back. It's already, as you can see, very smooth and very soft just by resting, and it won't take long, just a few seconds until it's actually ready to go and rest. We're going to let it rest for about 40 minutes at least, but you can also make the dough in the morning and say make samosas at night. It will be fine as long as it's very well wrapped to prevent it from drying out. You can also, like today actually, I'm going to make only half. I'm going to make 12 samosas and put the rest in the fridge, the rest of the dough, the rest of the filling, and then well wrapped. And then tomorrow take it out of the fridge, let it sit here on the worktop for about 30 minutes, and you can make them again, and the dough will be just as good as it is today. So, very handy. And the reason why we need to let it rest now, even though it seems like perfectly silky smooth, that the dough needs to develop gluten. We need our dough to be stretchy, elastic, and pliable. It happens in time when the flour meets the water, then the gluten develops. So we're going to wrap it back in the cling film and put it back in the bowl and leave it for 40 minutes. Now the dough is very well rested and the filling is cold, and now we're going to shape them and fry them. You can either fry them in a deep fat fryer at 170 degrees Celsius, not more than 180, or they will just burn very quickly. Or you can do it in a large pan with about 2 inches of oil, vegetable oil in it, preheated to this temperature. I'm using a thermometer. If you don't have a thermometer, you can check the readiness of the oil by throwing a piece of bread into the oil after about 4 or 5 minutes. If it gets all golden brown in about 30 seconds, the oil is ready. This amount of dough will give us 24 samosas. We will divide the dough. Some people make samosa sealing them using a paste, which is flour mixed with water, or just use some cold water around the edges to seal them. This dough doesn't need any of those things, you will see. Now we're going to roll this piece of dough into a log and divide it into 12 pieces, and then each piece will give us 2 samosas. In half and then in 6. And this will keep for tomorrow. We're going to make obviously one at a time and keep the rest covered so they don't dry out. We take one piece, flatten it, and with a rolling pin, if you have a small one, it's good, just flour it a little bit and roll it out into a circle in all directions. Lift it, turn it around. It's a very forgiving dough. It will not tear, and it's very stretchy and very pliable. And roll it as thinly as you can. If it's not perfectly round, it's not a big deal. And now we're going to cut it in half, like this. And then you lift one half, wrap it around your index finger, creating a cone. Press it gently and open it up like this. Take a spoonful of your filling, put it in, push it down with the back of your spoon, a little bit more, push it down, then connect the edges and press and seal. Press firmly, press the top, and here it is, perfect samosa. That's them all 12 done, and now we're going to fry them. The oil is hot. There you go, the temperature is right. Let's fry them. Just gently, very carefully slide them in. There are 12 of them. We're going to make 6 at a time in this size of the pan. It's fine. And it's oil, it's not water, they won't stick to each other. It will take about 5 to 7 minutes until they're golden brown. Remember that the dough rolled out very thinly and the filling is cooked, so we're not concerned about cooking the filling. So as soon as the actual pastry is cooked and golden brown, then we'll fish them out. In about a couple of minutes time, with a slotted spoon or fork, just turn them around. And that's them, ready to come out. If you like them darker brown, you can keep them for another minute or so. But to me, this is perfect. Golden brown, nice and crispy. And we'll put them on a kitchen towel lined plate. As you can see, they didn't split, they didn't open, remained sealed, and we didn't need to use any glue. And the other 6 go in. Like I said before, be very careful. The oil is very hot. Just very careful, gently let them into the oil. Don't throw them, it will splash. Here they are, all ready to serve. And I'm serving them with a store-bought mango chutney and a homemade tomato and roasted pepper dip and coriander, dill and yogurt dip. And here we are, thin, crispy, full of delicious filling. Living in the lockdown doesn't stop us from having nice food. I hope you try and make samosas. And if you do, please let me know how they turn out. Thank you for watching this episode of Culinary Haven, and until next time,